You know how some days just feel different? Like a line has been drawn in the sand. Well, what if an entire new era of technology, politics, and society arrived in just 24 hours? It sounds like science fiction, but on September 17th, 2025, that's pretty much what happened. It was a single day that completely changed the game for artificial intelligence.
The best way to describe that day is as a perfect storm of promise and peril. On one side, you had these absolutely mind-blowing technological breakthroughs, and on the other, you had this frantic wave of global power grabs and some really deep, real anxiety from the public. So let's dive into how that all played out.
Think about it. Everything we're dealing with in AI today, the unbelievable new capabilities, the global race to control it, and our own struggle with the consequences, it all collided on this one single pivotal day. We're going to break down the three major forces that basically came to a head all at once. Okay, so the first thing that hit was the tech itself. The raw power of AI took this just breathtaking leap forward. It stopped being this abstract thing in the cloud and started showing up in the real physical world in ways that were suddenly impossible to ignore. It all kicked off with Google DeepMind. Their new model, Gemini 2.5, managed to solve a super complex fluid dynamics problem that had human experts totally stumped. Now here's why that's such a big deal. This wasn't about mastering a game with a set of rules, like chess or Go. This was creative, abstract thinking applied to a brand new scientific problem. In that moment, the definition of superhuman AI moved out of the game world and straight into the science lab.
So while DeepMind was shooting for the moon, you had Meta and Samsung fighting a war over our day-to-day reality. Meta went all in on brand new hardware, AI glasses, a neural wristband, a super high-risk, high-reward bet on what we'll be using next. Samsung, on the other hand, did the complete opposite. They focused on software and just massive scale, promising to roll out their Galaxy AI onto 400 million devices that already exist. It's that classic tech battle, right? Do you build a whole new world, or do you just conquer the one we've already got?
And in a world moving this fast, where's all the money going? Well, a huge chunk of it went right here. On this very same day, the humanoid robotics company Figure AI hit a valuation of 39 times billion dollars. Just let that sink in. This tells you the big money wasn't just betting on code anymore. It was making a massive wager on intelligent machines that can physically walk and work among us.
And it wasn't just Figure AI getting all the attention. The money was spreading out all over the place. I mean, you saw huge investments in general robotics, in the essential networking that makes AI work, and even in specific financial apps. What this really showed is that the market was growing up. It was looking beyond just the cool, flashy models and starting to invest in the whole ecosystem, the plumbing, the nuts and bolts, that's going to make all this stuff actually run.
And this brings us to that second major force, because this massive tech explosion, well, it didn't happen in a bubble, right? Of course not. It immediately kicked off this intense geopolitical struggle for control.
The buzzword of the day was sovereign AI. So, what does that even mean? Well, basically, it's this idea that to be a real power on the world stage, a country has to control its own AI destiny. You can't be dependent on another country for your models, your data, or your computing power. It's all about technological independence, and pretty much overnight, it became a top national priority for everyone.
And we saw the perfect blueprint for this in a huge deal between the UK and the US. This was way more than just a tech partnership. It was a full-blown national strategy. First, Microsoft came in to build the infrastructure. Then, NVIDIA provided the chips, the actual horsepower. And then came the real kicker. The UK committed to expanding its nuclear power program specifically to meet the insane energy demands of AI. Think about that. AI is now shaping national energy policy. It's a whole new ballgame.
And you know what happens when there's a new geopolitical need, right? A brand new market pops up to fill it. Suddenly, you had companies like Asus offering basically sovereign AI in a box to any government that wanted it. In India, IBM and a local company teamed up to build India-centric models. The global race for AI supremacy was suddenly open for business.
Which, of course, brings us to our third and maybe most important force, us, the people. Because as the tech got bigger and the politics got more intense, the impact on society, well, that got really, really complicated.
You just have to look at this poll from Elon University to see the massive disconnect. The people building this stuff were talking about utopia, but the public was deeply worried. They were worried about what AI would do to core human things like our social skills and our empathy. And those numbers are just stark. For every one person who thought AI's impact would be positive, you had 6 who felt it would be negative. That is a massive trust deficit.
Then you have the whole jobs debate, which just intensified. The popular story was all about mass job annihilation. You know, the whole robot apocalypse narrative. But the actual research that came out that day told a much more nuanced story. It suggested it's less about jobs disappearing and more about the skills for those jobs changing. In fact, U.S. Census data showed that so far, workers in the roles most exposed to AI had actually seen less unemployment. The reality is proving to be way more complex than the scary headlines.
And then came this bombshell from the CEO of Cloudflare. He basically warned that AI is in the process of ruining the internet. His point is that these new answer engines, where you just get a summary instead of a list of links, are destroying the entire economic model of the web. If creators and websites don't get traffic, they don't get paid from ads. He was essentially saying this whole system could collapse, centralizing all information under just a few giant AI companies.
And finally, there was an even more insidious problem, a total crisis of data integrity. Because AI can now generate fake, human-like responses so easily, online surveys were being flooded with junk. One public health researcher found that nearly 40% of her data was completely fake. This is a massive garbage in, garbage out problem that could lead us to make critical policy decisions based on data that's totally fabricated. So, where does this all leave us? What does it all mean? Well, September 17th, 2025 wasn't really about one single breakthrough. It was about the collision of these three powerful, interconnected forces. And that collision is what's shaping the new world we're living in. So let's recap those three forces real quick. You have exponential capability, with AI thinking for itself and moving into the physical world. You have the geostrategic imperative, as nations start treating AI infrastructure like a core national security asset, and you have the societal reckoning, as all of us grapple with this crisis of trust, disruption, and the potential collapse of information as we know it. You put all that together, these competing AI power blocks, the huge risks to society, and just staggering amounts of investment, and it means the question we have to ask ourselves has fundamentally changed. It's no longer just, how powerful can we make this AI? The real question, the one that September 17th put right in front of all of us, is this: how do we actually build a future with this technology that is prosperous, fair, and secure for everybody? That's the challenge.